when history was almost stolen before it began. Just 48 hours, that was all that remained between Alex Eala and her historic moment. June 30th, 2026. The practice courts at the All England Club. The morning air was still thick with the scent of damp grass. Cameras were capturing everything: the footwork, the forehands, the rhythmic, steady bounce of the ball on the flawlessly manicured green turf. Then, everything ground to a sudden halt. Alex Eala, the world number 29, the first Filipino in open-era history to be seated in a Grand Slam singles tournament, abruptly stopped mid-forehand and clutched her shoulder. There was no scream, no sound of a dropped racket, just a sudden, piercing silence and a face reflecting a mixture of intense pain and fierce determination. In those few seconds, the entire practice court seemed to freeze. Other players stopped practicing. Coaches rushed toward the court. Tournament officials began monitoring the situation closely. And on social media, millions of Filipinos who had been staying up through the night to follow the magical journey of the 21-year-old from Quezon City began to tremble as they waited for news. This was not the first time that shoulder had raised concerns. Heavy strapping had already appeared since Bad Homburg. Noticeable discomfort had surfaced since the semifinals in Berlin. The warning signs had been there all along. It was just that no one wanted to look at them directly. But now, it was impossible to look away. The question spread like wildfire. Is she okay? Will the Wimbledon dream continue? Or is everything Alex Eala built during this legendary grass court season, from Birmingham to Queen's Club, from Berlin to her historic ticket at Wimbledon, about to crumble on a quiet, unnoticed practice court? This is the story of what happened next. It is about the mental fortitude of a young woman carrying on her shoulders not just her own physical strain, but the hopes of an entire nation. If you want to understand tennis at a deeper level than standard news outlets provide, subscribe to Pro Tennis 360, where every story is told the way you deserve to hear it. The journey to history, the numbers no one saw coming. To understand why that single moment on the practice court sent a shockwave through the tennis world, you need to know exactly what Alex Eala achieved in the 30 days prior. Let's be entirely blunt about the numbers, because numbers do not lie. June 7th, 2026, Birmingham. Alex Eala entered the Lexus Birmingham Open as a contender. When she lost the first set, many thought her run would end right there. But she didn't. She turned the tables, roaring back to secure a 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 victory over Nikola Bartunkova to capture her second career WTA 125 title. That was only the beginning. The following week in Berlin, a prestigious WTA 500 event featuring the world's elite, Alex entered the main draw as a wild card. No expectations, no pressure, just her and her racket. Round of 16, Donna Vekic, world number 33, riding a 5-match winning streak on grass. Alex won 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. Quarterfinals, Elena Rybakina, world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion. The woman widely dubbed the Queen of Grass. Alex won 5-7, 6-4, 7-6. Semifinals, Elena Svitolina, world number 8. Alex won in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4. Stop for a moment. Let those numbers sink in. A wild card, defeating the world number 2, then the world number 8, at the exact same tournament. On grass, a surface that notoriously penalizes baseline counterpunchers. That staggering run earned Alex 195 ranking points, bringing her total to 1,557 and catapulting her from number 35 to number 30 in the world. She leapfrogged Emma Raducanu, Donna Vekic, and Katerina Siniakova in the rankings.
It also secured her $57,000 in prize money, equivalent to nearly 4 million Philippine pesos. Then, when Victoria Mboko withdrew from Wimbledon due to a knee injury, Alex moved up to the number 29 seed. For the first time in history, a Filipino seeded at a Grand Slam. That was the grand overview of those 30 days. But behind those historic victories lay a harsh reality that Alex and her team were desperately trying to shield from the world's gaze. Warning signs, what the kinesio tape does not hide. There is one thing that never lies in professional sports. It isn't the post-match speeches. It isn't the smiles for the cameras. It isn't the carefully calibrated answers delivered during press conferences. It's the tape. As early as the Berlin semifinals, anyone paying close attention could see something was amiss. Alex Eala was competing with her right arm heavily wrapped. Not with standard medical tape, but with specialized compression strapping that physiotherapists utilize when an athlete's body is flashing emergency warning lights. In that semi-final match against Linda Noskova, which Alex lost, it wasn't due to a lack of spirit. Look closer, and you could see the lack of depth on her returns, and movements that lacked their signature sharpness. Noskova ruthlessly exploited this, targeting deep balls directly at Alex's right shoulder, hitting her precisely where it hurt most. Yet, Alex fought until the very last point. After the match, she wrote on Instagram, "Can't begin to describe all the emotions I've experienced this week. My heart is full. I am forever grateful." Berlin. Words of gratitude, but not a single mention of that shoulder. Then came Bad Homburg, the tournament she chose for her direct preparation for Wimbledon. Images from her matches there revealed even thicker, more extensive taping. She fell in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3, to Elise Mertens, her toughest defeat of the entire grass court swing. When questioned about the extensive strapping on her body that month, Alex explained, "My athleticism is something that I've been working on. It's more precautionary than anything. Of course, it's a physical feat to go deep in a tournament, so I'm just trying to keep my body in shape." Precautionary. But as the photos from Bad Homburg circulated, many realized this had long passed the point of being merely precautionary. This was a 21-year-old athlete forcing her body far past its limits because she knew that history does not wait. 4 tournaments in a single month. Birmingham, Queen's Club, Berlin, Bad Homburg. Every single match played at maximum intensity. Every match grinding her down just a little bit more. And then came the Wimbledon practice court, 48 hours before history. 48 hours before history, the moment everything stopped. That morning at the All England Club was supposed to be completely routine. That was what everyone expected. A light, final practice session to let her body re-acclimatize to the feel of the Wimbledon grass before her opening match. The morning sun cast a golden glow across the immaculate green courts. Journalists' cameras tracked her every stroke. Alex was running through her standard forehand drills. Normal, rhythmic, completely focused. Then came one particular strike. And she stopped. It wasn't a pause to catch her breath. It wasn't a break to adjust her positioning. It was the unmistakable freeze of someone who had just received a sharp, sudden, undeniable distress signal from her body. Her hand immediately flew to her right shoulder. Her face registered 2 things simultaneously: intense pain and sheer defiance. The immediate surroundings reacted instantly. Players practicing on adjacent courts stopped to look.
Coaches from the Rafa Nadal Academy, who had guided Alex through every step of this arduous journey, rushed onto the court. Tournament medical staff materialized within moments. Everyone watched, waited, and worried. And on social media, within minutes, the image spread everywhere. The Philippines woke up to the alarming news. International sports outlets began publishing updates. Hashtags began trending. Rumors exploded. Some claimed it was a minor tweak, while others feared a tournament-ending injury. Yet, there was no official announcement, no medical updates, just a profound silence. And that silence felt heavier than any official statement could. One fan wrote, She worked so hard for this. She deserves to walk onto center court. Please let her be okay. That single sentence perfectly encapsulated what millions were feeling. This was no longer just about tennis. This was about a young woman upon whom an entire nation had pinned its dreams, and who was now standing on the knife edge of her career. A nation holds its breath. The Alex Eala effect. When Alex Eala clutched her shoulder on that Wimbledon practice court, a nation thousands of miles away collectively held its breath. This is something that those who haven't closely followed Alex's journey find difficult to fully grasp. She is not simply a tennis player who happens to be on a hot streak. She is a symbol. Think about it for a moment. The Philippines, a nation of 113 million people, had never had a single player seeded in a Grand Slam singles draw. Never. In the entire history of the Open era. Then, on a Monday morning in June 2026, the WTA rankings updated and history shifted. Former American player Sam Querrey noted this regarding Alex. Every big win she has now, the reaction afterwards, it looks like she almost won the tournament. And it wasn't without reason. When Alex defeated Elena Rybakina in Berlin, the 2022 Wimbledon champion and world number 2, the Philippines didn't just celebrate a tennis victory. They celebrated definitive proof that a Filipino could go toe-to-toe with the absolute best at the summit of world sport. Watch parties were organized. Family dinners were scheduled around her match times. People who had never watched a single point of tennis in their lives suddenly became avid fans. One fan stated, "When Alex plays, we all get together and watch. We plan our dinners around her matches." That is a cultural impact that no marketing campaign could ever buy. And now, as news of the injury rippled out, those exact same people, millions of them, sat with phones in hand, frantically hitting refresh on sports feeds, waiting for any line of update. Prayers were offered. Messages of support flooded every social media platform. Laban Alex, Laban, fight Alex, became the rallying cry of an entire global community. But this is precisely where Alex Eala's story transcends the sport itself. When an athlete becomes the vessel for the hopes of an entire nation, the pressure ceases to be a personal burden. It becomes a shared national consciousness. And Alex Eala, at just 21 years old, was carrying all of it, right alongside that aching shoulder. Inside the medical room, the decision no one could make for her. The medical room at the All England Club is no place for the faint of heart. It is a clinical space where doctors ask brutal questions, perform deeply uncomfortable physical examinations, and deliver unvarnished assessments of an athlete's true physical state. There is no room for wishful thinking, no room for ambiguous answers. Alex Eala sat in that room while the medical staff meticulously evaluated her right shoulder. They probed about the pain, exactly when it started, the intensity, which specific strokes aggravated it most.
Her injury history. They reviewed the immense physical toll of what she had played through over the past 30 days. Birmingham, Queen's Club, Berlin, Bad Homburg, 4 grueling tournaments, leaving everything on the court in every match. Outside the door, her coaching staff from the Rafa Nadal Academy waited anxiously. They knew her better than anyone. They had watched her navigate this entire season, seeing the exact moments she pushed her physical body past its breaking point. Finally, the definitive test results came back. It was not as catastrophic as initially feared. It was a severe strain, an overextension of the muscles and ligaments brought on by an intense accumulated workload. Her body was screaming for rest and careful management. But there was no structural tear, no fracture, nothing that strictly forced an immediate mandatory shutdown. Wimbledon was still technically within reach, but here was the most critical part. The ultimate decision did not belong to the doctors. It did not belong to the coaches. It did not belong to the WTA. And it certainly did not belong to the millions of fans waiting on pins and needles back in the Philippines. The decision belonged solely to Alex Eala. She could withdraw. No one would blame her. After what she had accomplished over the past month, defeating the world number 2, the world number 8, cracking the top 30, and writing her name into the history books, protecting her long-term health was an entirely logical, justifiable choice. Or she could choose to walk out onto the grass. And when Alex Eala finally stepped out of that medical room, the answer was written clearly across her face, not through words, but through the sheer purpose in her stride. An uninjured spirit. What makes a champion? There is a fundamental question that those who have never competed at the professional level rarely understand. What do you do when your body says no, but your mind says keep going? The answer entirely depends on the fabric of who you are. Looking back at Alex Eala's entire 2026 grass court campaign, a distinct pattern emerges, and it isn't just raw technical talent, as immense as that talent is. The defining pattern is her uncanny ability to claw her way back from the absolute brink. Birmingham, lost the first set, won the championship. Berlin, round of 16 versus Donna Vekic, lost the first set, won the match. Berlin versus Rybakina, lost the first set, won the match. This is no fluke. This is a fighting instinct forged through years of rigorous development under the tutelage of the Rafa Nadal Academy, a place where competitive grit is not a slogan on a wall, but a daily baseline requirement. And now, standing outside that Wimbledon medical room, all those years of conditioning distilled into a single, defining crossroads. This is a detail many overlook when discussing Alex Eala. She is rarely the heavy favorite in the room. In Berlin, she was a wild card. Against Rybakina, the odds heavily favored the former champion. At Wimbledon, despite being seeded, she is the first Filipino to ever occupy that space, navigating completely uncharted territory. And in every single one of those scenarios, she delivers her absolute best. That is the fine line separating great athletes from true champions. It isn't the ability to perform when everything is perfect. It is the ability to perform when everything is actively conspiring against you, when your shoulder throbs with every motion, when an entire country is watching, and when absolutely nothing is guaranteed. When Alex walked out of that medical room with her decision made, she didn't need to say a word. That determination had already been on display all season. Through every first set deficit she overturned. Through every single strike executed with tape binding her arm. This is the kind of spirit that cannot be injured, no matter how much the body hurts. The numbers that wrote history, what no one can take away. Let's talk about the cold, hard data, because in professional sport, numbers are the only things left standing when all the noise and opinions finally fade. Before a single ball is even struck in her main draw match at Wimbledon, Alex Eala has already secured these extraordinary metrics during the 2026 grass swing. 9 wins, 3 losses on grass. That represents a blistering 75% win rate, a figure the vast majority of the world's top 30 would gladly accept. But it is the context that makes that number truly staggering. 2 of those victories came against Elena Rybakina, world number 2, 2022 Wimbledon champion, and Elena Svitolina, world number 8, at the same tournament, in the exact same week. To recalibrate, that is 2 top 10 victories within 72 hours, on grass, as a wild card. 195 ranking points earned from Berlin alone, bringing her total to 1,557. This triggered a massive jump from number 35 to number 30 in the world, cleanly passing Emma Raducanu, Donna Vekic, and Katerina Siniakova, names that not long ago were viewed as the benchmark of success in women's tennis. Over $57,000 in prize money from Berlin alone, nearly 4 million Philippine pesos from a single week's work. Then comes the most vital number of all, 29. The number 29 seed at Wimbledon 2026.
the first Filipino in the history of the Open era to be seeded in a singles draw at a Grand Slam. Not doubles, not mixed doubles, singles. This is a crucial point to emphasize. These numbers did not materialize out of thin air. They are the direct manifestation of years of grueling practice at the Rafa Nadal Academy, of highly strategic scheduling decisions, and of sacrifices that the general public rarely sees. The 6 a.m. training sessions, the exhausting travel days between tournaments, and the midnight shoulder taping sessions. And every single bit of it, every hard-fought ranking point, every match victory, every forehand struck through physical duress, has led to this historic morning at the All England Club. No one can ever take those numbers away from her, no matter how much that shoulder hurts. When Wimbledon calls, the match awaiting her. After all the anxiety, the agonizing waits, and the moments of deep uncertainty finally settle, one simple reality remains. Alex Eala has been cleared. She will play, and Wimbledon is waiting. In the opening round, standing across the net will be Renata Zarazua, the gritty Mexican player ranked number 73 in the world. On paper, this is a match a number 29 seed is expected to win. But Wimbledon is not a place where on paper carries much weight, especially when your shoulder is heavily strapped and an entire nation is glued to their screens tracking your every movement. Zarazua is a dangerous opponent. She is a relentless competitor who plays with absolutely nothing to lose in a match of this magnitude. Alex will have to play through a multi-layered layer of immense pressure. The physical pain in her shoulder, the staggering expectations of her country, and the sheer weight of history. But look closely at what we already know about Alex Eala in these exact scenarios. She has won when dropping the first set. She has won when no one expected her to. She has won while playing through pain. Should she navigate past the opening round, the draw opens up into fascinating possibilities against even bigger names. The exact profile of opponent she has already proven she can stun, just as she did in Berlin.
But let's be entirely honest. It isn't the match against Zarazua or anyone who follows that constitutes the real story at Wimbledon 2026 for Alex Eala. The real story is her choosing to step onto that court with her shoulder strapped, under the gaze of millions, wearing the iconic Wimbledon whites and authoring her own history without asking for anyone's permission. That is exactly what the number 29 seed from the Philippines is about to do. Not because she is devoid of fear, but because she has chosen to place something infinitely larger than fear above all else. What this story is truly about and why it matters. Let's be completely straight one last time. Alex Eala's story at Wimbledon 2026 isn't merely a narrative about an injury and a physical recovery. It isn't just a clinical chronicle of a young player ascending the global rankings. This is a story about something increasingly rare in the hyper-commercialized world of modern elite sport. Definitive proof that a purpose greater than oneself can compel the human body to achieve things that pure logic dictates are impossible. Alex Eala is not playing solely for herself. That has been transparent for a very long time. She plays for the young Filipino children picking up a tennis racket for the very first time, wondering if someone who looks like them can ever make it to the hallowed grass of Wimbledon. She plays for the families scheduling their dinners around her match times. She plays for an entire country that has collectively discovered they have an elite representative at the absolute zenith of global sport. That is a profound weight that does not register on the WTA ranking point system. It doesn't show up in the ace or winner statistics. But anyone who has watched her compete this year can feel it tangibly. And here is the final takeaway. That aching shoulder, the very one that caused the entire world to catch its breath on that Wimbledon practice court, is not going to magically stop hurting just because a doctor uttered the words, "not catastrophic." It will be felt with every single serve, every game, and every set.
Alex Eala will step out onto that court fully aware of that fact. And she is still choosing to step out. Not because she is reckless, but because she deeply understands that there are rare, fleeting moments in life when history is waiting, when the hopes of millions hang in the balance, where you simply cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. You have to step into the arena. Wimbledon 2026 will remember Alex Eala not merely because of the number 29 next to her name. It will remember her because she chose to fight, knowing entirely well that everything was far from perfect. That is the true, unadulterated definition of a champion. Follow Pro Tennis 360 to ensure you never miss a single step of Alex Eala's historic journey at Wimbledon, alongside the deepest tennis storytelling you won't find anywhere else. This is where tennis is told the way it deserves to be told.